What's up, everyone? Welcome back to After the Storm. We are on episode number 2 of the NHL What Ifs mini-series that we're doing here with Back to the Draft. So if you missed the first episode, I suggest you go back and watch it. We broke down the rules and the rosters for this entire thing. Basically, every player, whoever they were drafted by, had to return to their team, and we have like a brand new league essentially. This episode we're going to cover years 1 and 2, and the way we're just going to break it down is by simulating the quarter, halfway, trade deadline, and end of season, and then into the playoffs sections of the year. I wish controlling every team was a possibility, but unfortunately it isn't. So we are controlling Anaheim. I think Anaheim's a pretty good team with everything the way it's been built. I think they're one of the better teams in this entire thing, so I'm hoping that ultimately they're going to end up being one of the top teams in it, and then we'll get some, we'll get a longer version of all this, right? But nevertheless, we're going to head into the first season. I'm going to sim up to the 20-game mark. I'm putting everything on automated. Coaching, waivers, GMing, auto-signing free agents, everything is automated for this. I think the only team that will actually be negatively affected by this is ourselves, because I won't be able to do any trades, but the other AI teams will. Anyways, before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at the free agent list of players that are left over that are free to sign with teams. So as you can see, the free agent list isn't like super populated. It doesn't have a ton of great players. I would assume maybe some of these players end up on some teams. The only thing I know that unfortunately is still existing are buyout penalties for some of these teams. That is the only thing I couldn't really change. It's just kind of built into the game, unfortunately. But the other thing that is done properly is that all draft picks have been reset. So any of the trades that happen, any of the signings that happen, stuff like the Kotkaniemi offer sheet from this past offseason from Carolina, that those picks aren't even swapped. Kotkaniemi's, of course, back in Montreal anyways. So, but for stuff like the Dvorak trade, Arizona doesn't have those picks. Everybody has reset their own picks. And I think I just didn't mention that in the first episode of this series. So I wanted to get that out here right now. But again, yeah, there's not a whole lot of talent to go around. I'm sure some of these guys will get signed by some teams. Maybe we'll check out that before the beginning of the season starts. But ultimately, this is a very weak free agent list, and we shouldn't see too many, especially with cap situations and contract situations. I don't think many of these guys will get signed. Also, one other thing I do want to point out, in the settings, I have low sim engine scoring and high shot frequency, so we should see the goaltenders be better. I usually play with low and high. I'm actually going to change this to medium because that should get us with some better stats. I don't want to see like Connor McDavid with like 80 points winning in our Ross, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Trade offer notifications, all that stuff can come up. I'm not gonna put on head coach firings or anything like that. We're just gonna let it sim through and hopefully not have too many interruptions. So yeah, we're gonna get going with this right away, and we'll come back with the 20 game mark. So one thing I do want to point out is some of these players that were reassigned to their original teams, who are maybe in Europe or playing somewhere else. Those guys did sign, but they were restricted free agents. So Jacob Delarose signing in Montreal, Mark Jankowski signing in Calgary, and Julius Honka. So those guys all re-upped with their teams via our restricted free agent qualified offer sheet. So yeah, they're just these are the only free agent signings that have happened so far, and that's pretty much it. So we're at the 20-game portion of the season so far, 11-6-3. I thought we'd be a little bit better, but also, if we take a look around, we are actually leading the Pacific Division. So obviously, this is a division that's going to be a little bit weaker. Taking a look at the Kraken and Golden Knights in our division, not doing great, but not doing horrible. Just a lot of teams under 500 in this division. Taking a look, I guess I'm covering up some of that. So let's go ahead and go to the standing screen, and we'll take a closer look at the standings here. So taking a look at the entire league, Buffalo, somehow the top team, Toronto, Chicago, Ottawa up there, which is something I did expect. I thought they were very, very good, but some of these teams are actually scoring at a pretty good pace. 74 goals for both the Sabres and the Leafs. Sabres almost have 4 goals per game right now. Vancouver being... Yeah, this is strange. One thing... Hold on, I just saw this, didn't I? Let's go to points. Chicago is 3rd. They don't even have a goalie. Again, this is already, I love this sim because of how crazy it is. And if we go down here... Maybe I should sort this accurately. Nashville is sitting 23rd in the league and have been scored on 3.6 times per game on average, and they have the best defense in the league bar none. So again, at the best of times, I think the EA sim engine in this game is pretty wacky. This is another case of it. Calgary, another team that doesn't really have any goaltending either, or actually their forward depth is terrible. So I'm glad to see that they're one of the worst teams for scoring. That makes a ton of sense. Colorado being down there doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. But yeah, let's go take a look at some of the player stats, and specifically, let's go ahead and look at Chicago. So Chicago's getting a lot of scoring from their offense, which I definitely expected. 18 goals in 19 games from Patrick Kane already. That's pretty good. Doc Teravainen's been pretty good. Even Taves has been solid for them as well. But taking a look at their goaltenders, they are running Tompkins, they are running Gravel. And somehow he has a .915 save percentage, a 2.8 goals against, and 7 wins and 11 opportunities. And at the other end, at the other side of that, Gravel has been okay, but they must be outscoring a lot of their problems. Looks like they got 53 goals against on the season. Yeah, I think Chicago's just outscoring their issues right now, so I doubt that'll continue, but hey, it might. Take a look at our Ducks team. Some pretty even scoring throughout the lineup, but Carlson's been arguably our best player. Raquel Comtois, even look at Corey Perry, 15 points, 19 games. Good for him, getting lots on the board. Not a whole lot of depth scoring coming from our squad, but ultimately, I think Kasha's now become a healthy scratch if I'm not mistaken. But taking a look at the goaltenders, Gibson just over a .902. Again, even putting the game on medium scoring with high shot frequency is not letting the goaltenders be very good. So I might switch this back to low scoring. I don't think it'll see much of a drop across the, I guess maybe the 927s are pretty good around here. Yeah, this isn't horrible. It just looks like there's a lot of underperforming. So we'll give it a season. Maybe we'll change it to low next season. But ultimately, yeah, Kopitar, Kane, DeBrincat, Matthews, Aho, Eberle. Eberle being up there does not shock me. The Oilers should be scoring at a ridiculous pace. Nugent Hopkins up there as well. Jesus. Even Doughty, geez. 22 points for Drew Doughty. Yamamoto. Looks like the Oilers are just going off. Let's go take a look at the Oilers real quick before we move on with the sim here. 6 players with a goal or a point per game pace or better, of course. Well, it makes a ton of sense. This is the most disgusting top 6, I think, of any team in this. Maybe outside of Colorado, but of course, you have McDavid, you have Draisaitl, Yamamoto putting up points, Nugent Hopkins getting a lot of assists, Eberle getting a lot of assists. So, yeah, this is... But they're goaltending. Again, goaltending's the issue. And they're running an 8.87 Devin Dubnyk out there. That's ridiculous. I don't even know. Where are they in the standings? That's a great question. I didn't see Edmonton in the standings. They are 3rd in our division with 22 points. They're not really doing bad. So that's pretty good for Edmonton right there. So no trades have been made or anything like that, I don't think. We'll double check that here. But no trades, no signings, no contract renewals. Sure, there's lots of injuries around the league. That's usually pretty normal. But ultimately, not a whole lot happening in terms of roster changing. And I'm assuming this is probably going to stay very solid for the first season due to the fact of the contract situations for most teams. So we're probably going to see a lot of... I'm sure there'll be some deadline trades that happen. I don't think it'll be a completely dead deadline to not have a better word for it, basically. But into the second season, I think that's when we start seeing some players really flip around teams in the league. So we'll sim right up to the 40 game mark, or right about let's say the 41 game mark, sim up to the halfway point of the season, and then we'll come back and take a look around the league again. So we're at the exact midway point of the season for our team, not of course over the league. a 16-point lead over the rest of the division. We have basically completely zoomed away from the competition in this division. We are actually leading the league in points, but I'm taking a look at that. That is a ridiculous Atlantic division where everybody except for the Canadians and Red Wings are in the playoff hunt. Yeah, that's just taking a scroll around. You guys can see it here, not on the calendar screen. But ultimately, we are in the worst division. The Canucks are an even 20-20. That's hilarious. But the Blackhawks, again, so the Sabres have dropped from the top team in the league to 5th in the Atlantic now, tied with Florida for that final wildcard spot. But the surprise remains the Blackhawks, who just continue to be good despite having no goaltending. We lead by 3 points, but Boston's played 5 less games. They have 53 points. Again, Boston was another team I thought was going to do extremely well in this, and they definitely have. Tampa, I thought they'd struggle to be here, but they are really doing well. Philly, not a team I expected up here. Chicago, definitely not a team I expected up here at this point of the sim. Buffalo, not really a team I expected up here either. Edmonton, I would say it's a bit of a surprise, all things considered, but they don't really have goaltending. But again, Chicago, who has no goaltending, is doing great. So I'm a little confused there. Washington, I didn't think would be this low. St. Louis, I believed, was one of the best teams in this. Really, I thought they were one of the best teams. They haven't been. Colorado, you figure with all their depth, they would be way better. The Islanders were a good team too. Just not simming well at all. Crazy. Detroit, San Jose, I didn't think San Jose would be down this low either. Chicago, I thought would be the worst team. With all that goaltending issues, I didn't think they'd be... Man, this is crazy. I thought they'd be way lower. But, yeah, they're doing really well. Seattle and Vegas just sitting literally... Again, they were kind of mirror images of each other in the roster reveal. One was very offensive, that was Vegas. One was very defensive, that was Seattle. And their goaltending were fine. They're basically the exact same team. They just haven't really been any different. That's kind of crazy to me. Take a look at our squad really quick here. Carlson, 44 points. Raquel, 35. Corey Perry having a resurgence of a year at 32 points. Palmieri, 32. Comtois, 30. Even Bobby Ryan's getting in on the scoring. Gibson has brought his save percentage up a tad. Dostal as a backup has been very solid, actually. 927 in 8 appearances. That's pretty solid. Kane has 61 points in 39 games. Yeah, what is happening here? They're just scoring their way out of all their problems. This is crazy. DeBrincat 52 being in second place. It's literally those two guys just carrying a team. Panarin's even got 47. Crosby 45. Carlson 44. He's having a great year. Nobody's going to be talking about it because of Patrick friggin' Kane. Connor McDavid 43 and 38. I'm trying to find a player who's a really big shock to be up here. Not really any so far. Kirby Dach 39 points in 39 games. What is happening in Chicago, man? This is crazy. Chicago has 3 players. Teravainen even with 35 points. Taves is having a good season. And it drops off hard. But, man, all their scoring is coming from 2 guys, basically, or 3 guys with Doc. This is nuts. I can't believe. Tompkins is doing... They're just outscoring their problems. They gotta be. I'm going to go look at the team standings right now and just take a look at their... gotta be just outscoring their problems. 129, 116 against. They're probably mid-pack of the league. Yeah, they're kind of the middle. They're fine. This is strange, man. What a strange sim so far. St. Louis I thought was good. Colorado I thought was way better than this. And we've scored the most goals of any team. So, man, what a weird sim so far. I love it. What a great showcase so far. We'll go ahead and we'll sim up to the trade deadline now and then go through that and see what happens at the deadline, if anything. So we're at the trade deadline. I'm just going to sit in this screen for a second here and just kind of take a look around the league. There's obviously a few players, John Klingberg, Philip Forsberg, Trocheck, Turtle. There's lots of guys who are expiring at the end of the season that are going to be teams are going to be looking to try to move here. I'm not sure if any will get moved, just based on the salary structures and everything in this first season. And never mind, there's a trade right here. Let's see. Caps trade McMichael and Bjorklund to Colorado in exchange for Kevin Shattenkirk and round 4 in the 2022 draft. So Shattenkirk has gone back to Washington now. He's the first player, I believe, that has switched teams via trade. I think there hasn't been a single trade so far this season, and that's the first one. Ooh, Chicago's made a trade. What do we got? Kevin Hayes, a fourth, 2/4 to Montreal in exchange for Subban and Halak. So Chicago gets a goalie. Oh no. Oh no, they get a defender too. Oh, Chicago's going to win the cup. I hate everything. Minnesota makes a trade. They get Adam Larson from the Devils. So again, we're seeing a lot of teams that are actually just making some deals here as they go along. I'm trying to go into the standings screen so that we can go look around the league as we hit this midway portion. Looks like one of the best goalies is Tuukka Rask in Toronto. We dropped our first place section to the Boston Bruins. The Ottawa Senators being up here is absolutely not shocking. We have another trade. I can't believe how busy this deadline is. Jets have traded around 2 firsts, Heinola, and a third in exchange for John Klingberg. Now, I know I didn't get into the AHL rosters too much I don't think I actually touched on them at all in the roster reveal. I was going to, and then I changed my mind about it because it would have taken a very, very, very long time. But Carl Klingberg is back in Winnipeg. So John and Carl, I think, are brothers. I think they just got to play together. And Edmonton has traded Lavoie and Samorukov in exchange for Alexiak and Nick Paul. So they're adding a little bit of depth there. I still think they need some goaltending to the Oilers. But ultimately, let's keep looking around the league here before trades come up. We still got a few hours here left before the deadline anyways. So the Sens being in fourth isn't surprising. Toronto being up here, not totally surprising either. They've been good. I think we are still the best offensive team. The Canucks have made a trade. Canucks traded round 1 and Kosmar to the Sharks in exchange for Tomas Hertl. So San Jose selling off. I think they're one of the lower teams in the league at this time, so that makes a lot of sense for them to be selling off a little bit. Edmonton doing okay. I think I looked around and Kane is still leading the league in points and all that stuff, so San Jose is dead last. That makes sense why they're selling. LA has made a trade. Round 1 in Kupari in exchange for Valeri Nichushkin. That is a massive overpay for Valeri Nichushkin. Where is Dallas? Dallas. Dallas is 20th. I guess they're not really out of it yet, but probably looking to be pretty close to out of it. 64 points, the other wild card. They're only 3 points back. But I mean, if you're going to sell Nichushkin for that much, that's a crazy amount. Bodie Wild, a third and a fifth to the Blues in exchange for Edmondson, a fourth and a fifth. So the Islanders are sending out a player that I think Bodie Wild has. Yeah, he's an anti-vaxxer. So the Islanders are probably just getting rid of him. But man, this is crazy. This is nuts. Boston, I thought was going to be really good. Oh God, the Habs made a trade. Buchanan's traded again with a third and a fourth in exchange for Henry Nikkanen, a second and a seventh. So, of course, these weird draft pick swaps that always occur with the AI making trades with each other are always just strange. But ultimately, yeah, that's something. Montreal acquired Kevin Hayes, 2/4 already, and then they just acquired Nikkanen. Nashville, second, third, and Patrick Harper to the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for Keith Yen. Why are they getting more defense? Oh, the trade engine logic is so broken. I don't know if they've traded any of their defenders yet. I don't know if they have. I'm going to go look at Nashville's roster right now and just... I don't know if they have. Radulov leading them with 55 points. Oh my goodness. Girard's played 6 games. Jordan's played 6 games all season. Fabro with 8 points. He's only played 28. Suter, Weber, Ekholm, Ellis. They've now added Yandel to this. What is happening? There's too many defensemen, and they suck. They can't even play well. They're one of the worst teams. Saros is just getting hung out to 3.32 goals against. How are you guys? You're the best defensive team. Oh, my God. Arizona trades OEL again to Vancouver. Oh, no, not Vancouver. Oh, Jim Benning, hang up the phone, you idiot. You idiot, Jim Benning. Oh, my God. This is the best. I love trade deadlines. Another trade. Riley Smith to the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for round 2 and Placid. Jesus. I can't believe this. Why did the Predators get more defense unless they're trading other defense? There's teams around this league right now that need more defenders. Columbus makes a trade. Second, Bjorkvik, Holm, and Trey-Fix Wolanski to the Sharks in exchange for Demers. A third, and Patrick Marleau. Oh my goodness. Corey Perry, everybody. Welcome back to Relevance. What a 52 points. Leading our team in goals. Zegras is here. Comtois, Theodore. Actually, Bobby Ryan having a good year too. Jesus. Gibson pulling that save percentage up slowly but surely. Dostal's kind of regressed to an average now. But, man, this is crazy. I know I'm saying that a lot, but, man, this is... Kane, 40 goals in 60 games, 85 points. Malkin up there, Marchand, Matthews, Crosby, McDavid, Stone. There's not really any surprises of players that are up here, but even at the same point, it feels like like Kirby Dach, 58 points. His career high is 23. How did this make the Chicago Blackhawks good? So the Blackhawks now have Halak as well. So let's... Whoops. Oh, actually, that's a good point. Let's go take a look at the AHL. Gabriel Bork leading the entire AHL in scoring. So the Nashville Predators minor team is doing pretty well. Brett Howden, Dawson Mercer, Chris Wagner, Lucas Raymond killing it down there. Linus Omark as a 35-year-old. Killing it down there. I'm missing a trade. Ryan Suzuki, third. Why? Why did the Habs take Skinner? This trade engine's so broken. Why? So I'm taking a look around the AHL right now as we approach the deadline. And man, this is just... So Matt Murray isn't even having a good year in Wilkes-Barre somehow. Mark Mazinitz, who came back over from the European leagues, is having a great year for the Milwaukee Admirals. We have another trade, Arizona this time. They trade Martinook and a third and a seventh to the Islanders for Simon Holmstrom and Tristan Lennox. So that one's just a depth move for the Islanders, basically. That seems like a very Lou Lamoriello type of trade to make. But what I really expected out of all of this was that we were going to see the NHL level goaltenders be like very, very good. And that's not the case here at all. Like, get down to Cam Talbot before this starts shaping up like very good. Okay, we have 2/3 Larson for Georgiev and a third. So the Detroit Red Wings acquiring a goaltender. DiPietro, Jake Allen down here in Springfield isn't playing even that great. Yeah, you'd think there would be a lot better goaltending around the league. Or around the AHL, but Hellebuck. Where's Rask here? Tompkins having this much. Florida. Trocheck to Carolina for a first and Mateos. Oh my god, they love Trocheck in Carolina so much. Another trade. James Neal, a fourth and a sixth to Tampa in exchange for a second. Kajkovic, a third and a fifth. So that's just a rental for Tampa. I'm not sure where Dallas is in the standings, so I guess we should take a look at that. think they're a little bit lower, as we got an hour left in the deadline here. This has been, what a weird deadline. Dallas is sitting 20th. So yeah, they made that John Klingberg trade earlier as well. So they've kind of just sold off a few assets. Montreal has taken on the Kevin Hayes and Jeff Skinner contracts at this deadline, and I have no idea why. What a weird deadline, man. And Nashville of all teams, man. Nashville, where are you guys? Nashville sitting 17th. They're in a wild card position, but somehow have been one of the worst defensive teams despite having the best defensive core in this simulation. And they add Keith Yandel when they're already scratching Girard and Fabro. Like, why did they make this trade? All right, I don't know. Second, 6 to New Jersey in exchange for Zach Parise, a 4th, and John Merrill. So the Devils selling off a few assets. They're right here, sitting. I think they're well out of the playoffs right now. They are sitting. Wow, Tampa is the second place wild card at 6th in the league. The Eastern Conference is deadly in this simulation as well. I didn't even pick up on that. So yeah, they're way out. Devils are 16 points out of a playoff spot currently. So, man, what is happening? That Atlantic Division is just murdering the league right now. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Atlantic teams make up the top 6 in the league. That's crazy. We have just about 25 minutes left before the deadline here. And yeah, let's see if there's any other last minute trades. Oh, we have a last minute deal. Edmonton, Broberg, Tullio to the Blues in exchange for Jake Allen, a 3rd rounder, and Yuri Laterra. So the Edmonton Oilers get a goaltender in Jake Allen. That's a big trade for the Oilers, who look to be a lot better here. And we are going to hit the deadline right now. I don't think there's going to be a last minute deal that comes in. No, there won't be. So we'll go ahead and we'll review the trades that have happened at the deadline here. We're at the bottom. This is going to take a little while, but this is a lot more busy than I thought this deadline was going to be. I thought there was going to be a lot of cap restrictions. I think you saw a lot of, contracts in, contracts out. Makes a lot of sense. So we kicked it off with Connor McMichael, Garen Bjorklund, to Colorado for Kevin Shattenkirk, Kevin Hayes for PK Subban and Jaro Halak. The Habs get rid of the Subban contract. The second time they trade Subban, by the way. They get rid of the Subban contract, but that was expiring this year, and they've taken on a long-term $7 million contract in Kevin Hayes. They give up a backup in Jaro Halak. That's okay. The Devils get a 1st in Hunter Jones, so they get a goaltending prospect and a 1st for Adam Larson. Pretty good there. John Klingberg gets to go play with his brother in Winnipeg. Jamie Alexiak and Nick Paul, some depth options for the Oilers, who probably needed it. Actually, I'm not sure how much they needed that defense, Jamie Alexiak there, but I don't think they've traded anybody from their rosters. So they have a pretty good defensive core. Nick Paul, some nice center depth for them, that's for sure. Tomas Hertl to Vancouver. Again, Vancouver setting themselves up with another contract potentially in the offseason. Chushkin, definitely the overpay of the day. LA paying a 1st and a prospect for that. Bodie Wild getting sent to the Blues in exchange for Joel Edmondson. Thomas Buchanan's traded again by the Montreal Canadiens, who really made some swaps on this deadline day here. He goes for a prospect, Henry Nikitanen. The Predators acquire another defenseman that they can't even fit into their lineup for a 2nd, 3rd, and Patrick Harper. I don't even know what's going on with the Predators. They're not even that good defensively, and now they're adding Keith Yandel into the mix. I don't know what they're doing. The Canucks reacquire Oliver Ekman-Larsson for a 1st, 2nd, and a prospect in Tyler Madden, although Tyler Madden's about 24 at this point, so that's not too bad of a player. But again, you paid a 1st, 2nd for Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Why are you reacquiring OEL? Riley Smith, they acquired then from Dallas. Jason Demers is just a rental along with Patrick Marleau to a team. Columbus takes them on. Ryan Suzuki becomes the 2nd Suzuki brother to play for the Montreal Canadiens. But again, they also take on the Jeff Skinner contract, which is terrible. I think that's $9 million, or it's not $9 million anymore, but it's like 8.3 or whatever it is. But Galchenyuk and Beaulieu go to Carolina. That's more depth options for them. Martinuk from Arizona to the Islanders for a couple prospects. Red Wings acquire a backup for Peter Mrazek and Alexander Georgiev. The Canes reacquire Vincent Trocheck, who they love. They reunite him with Jacob Slavin. Tampa acquires a depth piece in James Neal. They pay a pretty penny to do so. The Devils trade Zach Parise to the Seattle Kraken, and then Jake Allen is the starting goaltender now in Edmonton as they get a nice starting goaltender, which they really needed. All right, guys, so that was the deadline. We're going to sim up to the end of the season here and see what has transpired and who makes the playoffs and who doesn't. Again, that Atlantic division is absolutely crazy. 5 of the top 6 teams in the NHL are in one division this season, so it looks like the Atlantic is going to be a bit of a juggernaut heading into this playoffs. So before we get into the playoffs, let's just go take a look around the league again. William Karlsson, a solid season, 87 points, 33 goals. Corey Perry had 63 points. A resurgence of a season for him. Kyle Palmieri, Trevor Zegras, lots of scoring on the team. Very good from a lot of players. I'd say even 20 points from a third pairing D and Brandon Montour is pretty damn good. Jake Gardner didn't play all that much. Max Jones didn't play all that much. Marcus Pettersson didn't play all that much. Gibson, 38 wins. That's pretty good. He's stuck right around that 908 save percentage. Connor Hellebuck led the league in wins. Vasilevsky, Fleury, again, no real surprise on these goaltenders who are leading their teams to lots of victories. Ultimately, some goalies had some really low numbers. Some others had some pretty good numbers, like Robin Leonard here, 922. Jacob Markstrom, 922 as well. Those are pretty good numbers for these goalies. Jeremy Swayman leading the Bruins. Let's go take a look at points. Patrick Kane, 115 on the season. He had 61 goals. He played 79 games. Marchand behind him. Matthews, DeBrincat with 99. McDavid with 93. Had a good season. No real surprises in here. Maybe Karlsson being up there is a bit of a surprise, but ultimately these are all very good players, and they're put a lot of points on the board for their teams. So we'll go take a look around the league at the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Montreal's a big one. I didn't think they'd be this bad. They took on a lot of salary at the deadline. They shipped out Subban and Halak. I don't really know. This is kind of like the real life Canadians, where like most of it is like, what the hell are you doing? Colorado should have been way better. Should have been. They had the best center depth in the league if they played it right. Duchesne was back. Ryan O'Reilly was back. Stastny was back. They had a lot of good stuff. It was really their goaltending and I can see that I think they are the most scored on team at 285 goals against on this season. I guess you guys can't really see that on the screen, but yeah, they had the most the most goals scored against them this season. Very rough year for Colorado. St. Louis, another team I thought was going to be a lot better. They weren't. See, the Islanders I thought were going to be a lot better. Calgary basically struggled to score, maybe-ish. I don't know. They weren't the worst. Dallas wasn't very good. Washington to miss is strange to me. Florida, Devils, Kraken doesn't surprise me. Nashville missing the playoffs. This is a team that they give up 3.33 goals per game, and they had the best defense in the league. They should have been able to pull off more than 41 wins. So let's go ahead and we'll get into the playoffs and take a look at the playoff tree and see what matchups we have in the first round. Let's take a look at this. Chicago, Minnesota at the top of the West there. Again, these aren't 1 versus 8 or anything like that, so it's not exactly super accurate, but Winnipeg, LA, Edmonton, Vancouver, Dallas, and we're going to be up against the Vegas Golden Knights, who did end up making the playoffs with all the undrafted players. On the other side, we have the Battle of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh versus Philly, Carolina versus Ottawa, Boston versus Tampa, and Toronto versus Buffalo. Again, those Atlantic Division teams were some of the best in the NHL, and 2 of them are going to get eliminated going into this playoffs, and that's pretty strange. So we're going to go ahead and just simulate through the first round, and then we'll come back and look at the playoff tree again. All right, so I thought after the first round I simulated it properly, but some games have already taken place. But nevertheless, taking a look at the Western Conference here, Minnesota takes out Chicago. Not a real shock. Chicago really didn't have any goaltending. LA takes out Winnipeg. That is a bit of a shock because of how good Connor Hellebuck is. Vancouver taking out Edmonton, again a bit of a shock, and then we got upset by the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think really one team, ultimately you could look at all these as upsets. It looks like a lot of teams were upset in this first round. On the eastern side, Philly beats Pittsburgh out in 7, Carolina over Ottawa, Boston over Tampa, Toronto finally wins a playoff round and gets to face Boston in the second round, and they're already down 2-0. So we'll go through, we'll simulate the second round, we'll come back. All right, and into the the conference finals section we go. Boston beats out Toronto, so Toronto can't slay the dragon. Carolina beats Philadelphia in 7. So we have a matchup of Boston versus Carolina in the East. In the West, LA takes out the Minnesota Wild in 7 games, and Vancouver sweeps the Vegas Golden Knights to advance to their first Western Conference Finals for the Vancouver Canucks since 2011, and they're going to face off, and we have a potential of a 2011 rematch on our hands as well. So, Vancouver, LA, Boston, Carolina, we'll sim through it, we'll come back. We have a Stanley Cup Finals matchup, something that almost seemed like it was inevitable in the early 2010s, was these two teams meeting up, but they do here. Boston beats out Carolina in 5, and LA takes out the Vancouver Canucks in 6. Boston, LA in the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's see who wins it. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and actually just showcase the lines of these two teams, because I think it's important to bring us back to seeing a team that we previewed initially at the beginning of all this, but seeing them again is probably pretty important to remind ourselves of who is on this team exactly. So Boston here, Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, of course, Krejci, Kessel, Sagan, Donato, Thornton, DeBrusk, Trent Frederick, Danton Heinen, Milan Lucic. On defense, Ryan Lindgren, Dougie Hamilton, Charlie McAvoy, Matt Grzelcyk, Vakanainen. Man, that is a name and a half, buddy. I'm going to call you Urho. Brandon Carlo on defense. In goal, Jeremy Swayman. What a goaltender this season. Who's, again, you think it's Rask. It's not. Rask is in Toronto. He loses to his former team as well in the playoffs. And Dan Vladar backing him up. On their scratches, Benning, Zaboral, Tommy Cross, and Malcolm Subban. Ultimately injured, probably as their backup. But yeah, Swayman has carried the load pretty well for this Boston squad. Take a look at LA now. We have Shen, Toffoli. Looks like they're missing Kopitar heading into this finals. Kubalik, Shen, Toffoli, Byfield, who is now an 84, Brown, Pearson, Kempe, Velarde, Simmons, Clifford, Turcotte, Delorier. On defense, Forbor, Doughty, Chernak, Martinez, Valeri Nichushkin, who was acquired for a first-round pick, is playing defense for them, and Matt Roy on the other side. Take a look at the scratches. Kopitar, Miller, Boyle, Anderson. Oh, they are injured going into this finals. I should see if I can check their injury reports and see how long they're out for. Bernier and Quick leading the way for them. It looks like Bernier is the guy right now, so let's go ahead and see if there's injury reports on these two teams. See what we got. Boston has a mild concussion for Jake DeBrusk and an MCL sprain for Malcolm Subban. That should take him out of the rest of the playoffs. For LA, a concussion June 6th. There's a potential that Kopitar comes back. Mikey Anderson is done. Brian Boyle is done with a broken leg, and Colin Miller likely he's out for another 10 days, so maybe he comes back. Kopitar's the big one, though. If they can get Kopitar, they can be definitely competitive in the Stanley Cup Finals. But yeah, this is a banged-up LA Kings squad heading into this finals. Boston takes game number 1. They take game number 2. They take game number 3. Ooh, LA roars back. And Boston wins the Stanley Cup in year 1. So a bit of a disappointing for ourselves, I would say, as Anaheim to go out in the first round like that. But Boston takes out every team in 5 games. They take out a juggernaut in Tampa coming off back-to-back wins. They take out a very good Toronto team, very good Carolina team. And they take out a, albeit pretty banged-up, LA Kings squad heading into this finals. But nevertheless, 2022, back to the draft, first Stanley Cup champions are the Boston Bruins. And of course, the lottery that usually never goes the right way, in order, I should say. So Arizona moves up from 5. The Rangers get lucky again. Montreal moves down to 3. Colorado. Yeah, a few teams get moved around here, but ultimately it stays pretty similar. Take a look at the draft class. I'm assuming Shane Wright is number 1. Yeah, looks like he's going to go to Arizona. And yeah, like I mean, there's lots of talent here, but that's not really what our focus is, anyways. But so we're going to go ahead and just auto draft. We'll take a look at the first round maybe and go from there. Oh no, not Yarmer. Yammy. He moved up to an 83. He was a 79. He had 50 points. What are you doing, my guy? You're 50. Come on, come back. Wish you could override like 2K and just be like, no, you're not retiring. Yarmer Yager, 1,971 points. Came back for a little bit more with the Penguins, which is awesome. Char out of here. Kessler, Seabrook, Dubinsky. Again, a lot of these guys. Zhirdev ended up as a free agent somehow, really. That's where he ended up. Andy Green out in Seattle. Brian Boyle after breaking his leg. Polak, let's see. Nigel Dawes, who ended up as a free agent. So as you guys can see here, this is where a lot of guys that were supposed to move over actually ended up just being free agents. Kyle Comiskey. Linus Omark just had a 71-point season in the AHL this season and has called it quits. Klepish, Ritola, yeah. There's a lot of guys here that I put onto the teams, and they just ended up dropping to free agency, which makes a lot of sense. No goalies retired. So we have, before we enter the draft here, we'll go ahead and take a look at the awards for this season. So we got Boston winning the Stanley Cup. The President's Trophy was awarded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. LA Kings win the Clarence S. Campbell Trophy, and Boston wins the Prince of Wales as the Eastern Conference champion. Patrick Kane, of course, winning the Art Ross. We already previewed that. He also wins the Hart Memorial Trophy. Thomas Chabot is the Defender of the Year in Ottawa. Patrick Kane wins the Lady Byng. Hey, Trevor Zegras, our own Trevor Zegras, wins the Calder Memorial Trophy, so that's a big one. Brad Marchand, the Conn Smythe winner. Robin Leonard, the Vezina Trophy winner in Ottawa. He also wins the William Jennings Trophy single-handedly as the least amount of goals scored against. Joel Edmondson, the Bill Masterton Trophy. The coach in Vegas, let's just call that Peter DeBoer, wins the Jack Adams Award. Kopitar wins, I think that may be his second or third Selke Trophy. Kane with the Ted Lindsay, and Kane with the Maurice Richard. So Patrick Kane cleans up in year 1 with all these trophies. And we'll just take a look at who goes first. Yeah, Shane Wright goes first, 78 overall. Sim the entire draft. We're not doing any drafting ourselves here. There's the players. All this is going to get managed by the AI anyways, so I'm going to leave all that. Hopefully this works out the way it should, where it'll auto-do it. I'm going to go take a look at maybe see what we've got in the way of cap space going into this offseason. $27 million, lots of people to re-sign. So let's see if the AI takes care of much of this for us, or if it's maybe a bit of a flawed system. So taking a look, Raquel got a contract. Looks like, wondering how many others got contracts. Jones maybe. Not sure about Kasha. I'm not really sure of how many players were actually expiring for the team, but we have $18 million in cap space at the current time. Gibson, Dostal, still running that as a goaltending duo. Yeah, so interesting to say the least. Looks like Raquel was the major one signed. There might be a lot of really good free agents. It looks like our AGM is already targeting some free agents as well. So let's go take a look at the free agents list. John Klingberg, after being traded at the deadline this year, is out as a free agent. We've approached Evgeny Malkin, Kadri, Malkin, Letang, Forsberg. Lots of guys who were expiring didn't end up re-signing with their teams. Yeah, there's a lot of good players out here on Fleury, Rask, Kemper. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of overhaul. We're going to just kind of sim it week by week, take a look at some of the signings as we go. So here, I just going over to the usually when you enter free agency in the franchise modes in EA or in NHL, usually there's a couple trades. So here's the first big one: Ryan Suter out in Nashville. So I believe the Preds have now lost Yandel and Suter from their back end. Makes a ton of sense to get these guys out because, I mean, especially getting some value back in Louis Storinen, and I'm sure Carolina could use the defender Ryan Suter here. So ultimately, Makes a lot of sense considering how many guys they had scratched. They had Gerard Fabro already scratched, so this makes a lot of sense. This is a good move. I think they might have lost Ekholm as well. I could be wrong there, but let's take a look at some of the free agent signings, and we'll go from there. So we'll get into Kelly Yarncroke. Goes to Arizona. We have Krejci moving to LA after beating them in the finals. Domi goes to Detroit. Gagne switching. Yakov Trenin returns to Nashville. Tyler Ennis loving life in Ottawa. Let's see. Joe Thornton goes to Carolina. Brendan Goulet to the Bruins. Bemstrom, Demers. Kenny Malkin signs in Vancouver. The Flyers swap out Ristolainen really with John Klingberg. Patrick Laine stays in Winnipeg. He's a restricted free agent anyways. Ristolainen to Toronto. Kadri leaves Toronto again. Goes to the Capitals. Thomas Hertl. I can't remember who he was traded to. I think it was Vancouver at the deadline. He signs in with New York. Vincent Trocheck leaves Carolina without a deal. Goes to Montreal. Perron, Letang. Tuukka Rask goes to Detroit. So, man, the Leafs have lost a lot here. They've lost their goaltender. They've lost Kadri. They've added in Lindholm and Ristolainen, though. Kessel to Winnipeg. Jared McCann stays up in Vancouver. Nino Niederreiter to Montreal. Josh Manson. So there's a loss off of our blue line here. Goes to Toronto as well. So Toronto's sending a lot of defenders here. Aston Reese to the Islanders. Here's where we get into some of ours. We have Victor Rask and Nick Paul that we've signed, as well as Alex Galchenyuk as a free agent, and Josh Levo, Casey DeSmith as well, signing around the league. So looks like we dropped out some defensemen. I'm going to go take a look at the contract screen and see what our forward group is looking like. Looks like we've dropped off a little bit. Looks like, I want to say, Mason McTavish might be ready. That might be why. Bobby Ryan looks like he wasn't re-signed. Corey Perry still has a year left on his deal, so that's why he's still here. Zegras is expiring this year. Comtois, so not the worst. I think they've pretty much stayed the same for the forward core here. Take a look at the defenders. Theodore Fowler, Gardner, Montour, Pedersen, Drysdale. I'm trying to think of who left. I want to say it's just Manson. Pedersen didn't play much last year. Gardner didn't play much last year either. So looks like we're running pretty much the same D-core, just minus Josh Manson. I know who we don't have anymore, and that's pretty significant, is Ryan Getzlaf is gone. So I don't think he's signed anywhere yet. But he's not here. So Getzlaf has tested free agency. And let's simulate another week, and we'll see what we have. So we left off here with Casey DeSmith. So Ryan Strome switching up. Butcher heading from, I believe he was a Colorado draft pick, to St. Louis. Hayden Fleury switching. Alex Nylander signs in L.A. Let's see. Valeri Nichushkin was traded for a first-rounder at the deadline. L.A. pretty much overpaid for him pretty substantially. Signs in Pittsburgh. David Rittich heading back to Nashville. Jimmy Vesey switching teams. Grabner back to Florida. Jason Spezza in Florida. Lankinen, let's see. Darcy Kemper going to Colorado again. He was in Minnesota last year. Ryan Murray back to the Devils. That's an interesting one. A lot of players are going back to where they were. Ben Sherratt, again, right there, goes right back. We got Josh Mahura signed. A lot of defensive signings for Toronto in this one. Janmark, Andreas Athanasiou stays in Detroit. You'll leave it there. I'm not sure Calgary's issue was goaltending, was it? Maybe it was. Gillies was maybe their start. No, it was Anderson and Gillies last season. So Marc-Andre Fleury signing there is pretty big. Eric Gustafsson leaves Edmonton. See, what do we got? Keith Yandel, who again was traded to Nashville and then let go. Jaro Halak out in Chicago. Getzlaf signs in LA. Oh, of all teams to sign with. Brian Rust goes to Seattle on a 6-year contract. that's pretty much it around the league right now. We'll sim another week. I don't think there'll be much. We'll also take a look at the free agents that are left. Philip Forsberg's a big one. Pavelski, Radulov, Greenway, I believe, is restricted. Leddy, Palat. There's still lots of talent out here to be picked up. I see PK Subban down here. PK Subban's down here. Bobby Ryan's still out here. It'll be interesting. I think we still have a good amount of cap space, 14.2 million. We've approached Vanacek as being our backup, so it looks like that's an option. Yeah, let's see what happens in the next week. So there's been some more trades around the league. We'll take a look. It doesn't look like a lot's moving around. Zemgus Girgensons for a prospect. Hunter Jones has been traded again. Michael Del Zotto is heading to the Devils just across the river. Left off with Gauthier. So Dustin Brown, first time out of LA. He signs in Vancouver. Colin Miller out of LA as well. Braden McNabb out of LA. I think they're having a lot of guys leave here. Vitek Vanacek comes in as our backup. Derek Brassard back to the Islanders. Zach Parise goes to Detroit. Alex Edler to the Sharks. Braden Holtby goes in as the backup to Vasilevsky. Jonas Korpisalo leaves Columbus, heads to San Jose. Ian Scott goes into backup Carey Price. Oli Mata stays in Pittsburgh. I almost messed that one up. Stays in Pittsburgh. Philip Forsberg to San Jose. Looks like San Jose sold off a lot of stuff and is now having the ability to get all of it back. Sean Dursey stays in Toronto. Sammy Vatanen in Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're slowing down quite a bit. I'm only going to do this to the end of July, and then whoever is left, I think there's still like Philip Forsberg and stuff out there. So hopefully we get some of these more of these signings, I should say, in the next little while here. So we left off with John Merrill. So here, I think we've got two big signings here. Andre Palat coming in on a contract. Ian Cole goes to the Sharks. Victor Mete. Joe Pavelski, there's the other one, coming in on a one-year deal. Daniil Tarasov going to the Leafs. Dominic Cahoon to the Florida Panthers. I think he sat out all year. Jack Campbell returns to Dallas. Calvin DeHaan moves to Arizona. William Mikheyev to the Sharks. And we'll do just one more week of this, and then we'll simulate up to the beginning of the season, and maybe we'll take a look at some lines around the league. We left off with Mikheyev here. Eric Stahl has signed a one-year deal. I'm not sure. I guess he would have been with Carolina last year. Signs in Pittsburgh. Riley Smith, who was with Dallas, then traded, signs in Calgary. Justin Schultz heads to Dallas. Alex Radulov goes to San Jose. PK Subban to the Vegas Golden Knights. And Christian Fisher to Tampa. It looks like we're going to have not a whole lot left going on with this free agent period. So I want to just say that Greenway, Bear, yeah, I guess Philip Forsberg signed somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where he ended up signing. Still lots of talent. There's a few RFAs still out here, but they might be a little SOL with the whole cap situations for most teams. Looks like we've done pretty well in this offseason, though, for our automated general manager. But let's sim up to the beginning of the preseason, or actually the regular season of year 2. That's actually where we're gonna leave off for episode number 1. I thought I was actually gonna do this as the first 2 seasons, but this actually took me. I'm at an hour and 15 of recording, so this is actually quite a bit. We'll do it, just break it up into 1 year each, and then we'll do 10 years that way. Lots of episodes for everybody to be able to watch. So we are at the beginning of the year number 2. We're going to just preview our own lines and then take a quick look around the league and see if there's anybody significant or any teams that made some significant moves that are showing up pretty early on in this. So taking a look at our own lines, Trevor Zegras has really jumped up. This is a pretty good offensive squad here. I would think that this is almost basically the same as last year. A very solid offensive core. I think we've even maybe gotten a little bit better. Carlson had a tremendous year last year. Looking on defense, Theodore Drysdale, who wasn't up last year, Fowler, Montour, Pedersen, Gardner, Jones, Larson, and Palmieri. I mean, is this even our best lines? No, this is our best lines. All right, so let's go ahead and just do the... well, not really much any different. Just Gardner dropping out of the lineup, and Corey Perry and Max Jones dropping out of the lineup as well. So I'm going to let the coaches do what the coaches are going to do. Palat, Pavelski, big additions. Yeah, like this isn't definitely not a bad team. Gibson, Vonacek, that's a little bit better as a goaltending duo. Taking a look down the AHL. Galchenyuk, I hope he didn't sign Victor Rask too much money. 2.3. Awful contract, whoever was dishing that out. Galchenyuk doesn't even make the squad. Like, there's a lot of guys down here that aren't even making the squad right now. Mahura, Sekera, Holden, all these guys were brought in this offseason. And Dostal now going back down to the minors. So Arizona's not too much different from their last season. They added a few players, Yarncroke, Perron, mainly. Those are their two big additions on offense. On defense, Noivara, Dahan are their big additions there. Hill, Tendek, really just kind of sticking with the same squad here. A lot of the same. There's a few additions here, of course. Kajula, Malgin, Hemstrom here for Boston, but they were very good last year, so they're going to run that back and try to win another cup. I should say they are the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Goulet, Hamilton. Goulet's the one addition here on defense for them, otherwise the same. Swayman up, and Grice now a backup goaltender there. Not overly great here, and not a whole lot different either for the Buffalo Sabres, but they weren't horrible last year. Delaney's still playing with Myers. Strawman over, Zadorov, Ouellette. Yeah, not a whole lot of difference here. Cal Peterson, Linus Ullmark, still running the goaltending duos. Again, not much different. They brought in Thornton. They brought in Clifford. That's been pretty much it for additions on this team. Fogle up to an 84. Defense, Slavin, Pesci. Suter, of course, a big addition here. Dumoulin now a healthy scratch. Bean and Hannafin on this bottom pairing is pretty good. They're a pretty decent team. Freddie stays. I think maybe he's got a 2-year contract, and Nedeljkovic is still here. Not a whole lot different in Columbus either. It doesn't look like they made many, if any, changes in this offseason on their forward group. Demers comes in. That's pretty much it. Vevalainen and Merzlikins. Yeah, that's it. And they got a scratched Patrick Marleau. The Flames have figured out their bottom 6, which is really good. They got Janmark in here. They brought in Riley Smith as well. I like what they've done here just because they definitely needed to get... They had a defenseman in here last year, so that's pretty good. Fox, of course, better. That's a pretty good squad. They add in D'Angelo. Goalies, they add in Fleury as well. I mean, you can't really go wrong. This way overachieving team from last season looks like they've gotten a little bit better. Their fourth line pretty weak. Their defense is a little bit better. They added Stetcher in to this squad. Looks like they added in Bet Hunt as well. Goalies, Francouz is a lot better than Tompkins. Looks like those goalies are completely gone now. Again, a disappointment of a team last season. Colorado should be a lot better this season. Ryan O'Reilly, Matt Duchene's now a fourth liner. New Hook is up. They should be a lot better. Letty, McCarr, Byram Berry, Hemingway, who I assume is that's a 4th overall pick. And Paul Ledoux is pretty weak on the defenders. Craig Anderson back in Colorado. Kemper, that should work out a lot better for Colorado this season. Dallas, not a whole lot of changes. Patin here. Matthew Joseph, not a ton of changes here. Kopp, I guess, is another one that's there. Schultz, not looking great. Smith and Campbell still the goaltenders for them. Detroit, really not a whole lot different. Domi is here. Carl Soderberg. Otherwise, they're pretty much just running the same squad. Just a year older with more experience. Not a ton of difference here. Rask. That's a big one. Rask and Mrazek now. And Parise is a scratch. Edmonton, not running much different, but boy, that bottom 6 is absolutely terrible. Defense is still solid. They've just added in Alexiak. Goaltending probably going to be a lot better this season with Jake Allen there. Again, not a whole lot different for Florida. They added in Zuccarello and Spezza. Bring back Grabner. Cousins there. Second to third pairings on defense are not great though, but they have Knight and Markstrom. That should make up for it. Stanley Cup finalists, the LA Kings, Pearson, Kopitar to Foley, pretty good. Kubalik, Krejci added in, Byfield. This is a team I think should be right back. Like I could see Boston and LA going right back to the Cup finals in this one. They add in Getzlaf as well. our former captain. Pretty solid defensive core here. Chernak looking pretty good. And then goaltenders still Bernier, still quick. Minnesota, Marco Rossi, a big jump for him. He had an excellent season in Iowa last season. So he jumps into the NHL. Not a great, but like their center depth is very, very good. Just their winger depth is not great in the bottom six. Brodeen, Burns, Sosi, Dumba, their defense is pretty good. Kakinen and Hudobin now running their goaltending. Montreal, they add in Trocheck, they add in Hayes, they add in Niederreiter. Terribly, they add in Jeff Skinner. They add in Jankowski and Abe Kubel. A lot of change in Montreal. They look a lot better than they did last season. Sergachev, Romanov. Defense isn't super, super good, but it's all right. McDonough, Sherratt comes back. And Price and Primo doesn't look like they're going to use. I don't know who they signed as their backup, actually. Devils, a year better. They have one of the better outlooking offensive squads. Very young, can get a lot better too. Giordano, Severson. Yeah, this is a team that should do a lot of damage this year. Blackwood here with Dawes. I would look for... This is a team that was dressing 2 forwards on defense last year as well, so this team looks like it's going to be pretty damn good this year. Devils should be one to watch out for. The Preds just kind of bulked up a little bit more, but their center depth is still very not good. Let's see what they added in. Bobby Ryan here. Milano, Achari, Luis Turinen. Their defense is still so good. Fabro's still a scratch. Probably looking for a trade at this point. Rittich and Saros should lead. The Nashville should be a lot better. Not a terribly different Islanders squad either. And again, they didn't do well at all last year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. JT looked like he played pretty fine with them last year, but ultimately they didn't really get anything done. Defense is still very good. Goaltenders are fine. The Rangers last year, they look pretty weak again this year. Their winger depth is good, but their center depth isn't. They had in Hurdle. They left their defense pretty much the same, and I feel like that was a big issue last year. Shesterkin and DeSmith at least has a better backup. In Ottawa, very much a similar team. I don't think other than Ennis and Bjugstad, there's no differences here. Spezza's out. Chabot, Carlson, Lajoie, again, their defense really suffers after that first unit. Brown, Batherson, Pajot still here. Leonard and Drieger still running goaltender. So that's pretty good. The Ottawa center should be fine. Philly, not a ton different. Peary here. Other than that, Rodriguez is the only other addition. Provorov, Klingberg's a big addition for their squad. But again, like their third pairing is very bad. Hart and Stolar are still running net. Pittsburgh without Yager. They add Eric Stahl in. That's pretty good. They add into Chishkin in. Jordan Stahl is somehow playing fourth line center. Pat Marunov comes over as well. And then Braden McNabb, not a great defensive core there. And then Murray and Jari after Fleury leaves. So that's going to be an interesting turnaround for Philly. On to Seattle. Not a ton different here either. Still very good defensively. Ranta Subban running the goaltending. Lots of signings this offseason for the Sharks. Forsberg, Radulov in. Otherwise not incredibly different. Edler, Cole come in. Not great on defense for the Sharks. Goaltending, Korpisalo, Copley, a little bit better. St. Louis looking still pretty similar to last season. Tierney, Gagne there. Butcher comes in. Hag comes in as well. So they should be a bit better. Bishop and Binnington, how they didn't make the playoffs last year, I have no idea. On to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Made the playoffs last year, but obviously not solidly, I should say. Again, they are looking really weak beyond like Brett Connolly being here. Defense is not good. And then it's just Vasilevsky and Holtby. Toronto, Nylander, Matthews, Marner, solid. For Hagee, and then the bottom six doesn't look great for Toronto. Riley, Ristolainen, better. Lindholm, Manson. Lindholm's another one we lost in the offseason. Manson, Dermott, Liljegren, a lot better defense, but they're running Reimer and Woll now. Vancouver, Malkin comes in. Dustin Brown comes in. That's a lot better offensively. Hughes, they reacquired Ekman Larson for some reason. Defense is not great. Goaltenders are Demko and DiPietro, though, so they should be fine. They should be a contender to get into the playoffs. Not a ton different in Vegas either. Offensively, they kind of drop off a cliff pretty quick. Panarin's still obviously the better player there. PK Subban comes over. Hayden Fleury comes over. Bobrovsky and Talbot still running goalie. Winnipeg, yeah, not a ton different there. Running very similar. Phil Kessel comes in. Not great defense. Hellebuck's still there, though, so that should bail them out. Washington. Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, not a ton different. They added in Timashov. They added in Kadri, so their center depth is very, very good. But they are playing a defender. Brett Leeson's definitely a defender, right? I feel like Brett Leeson's a defender. Defense, not great. Goalies, Varlamov, Grubauer still fine. Wilson somehow a scratch. So that was a little preview of what next season will be. Again, we're going to do 10. So this series will actually probably extend outwards to probably 10 or 11 episodes, depending on how long this takes. Maybe the final episode will be 2 full seasons, and we'll shut her down after that. But yeah, I'm losing my voice talking so much. Interesting first season, to say the least. Boston wins the Cup. Chicago somehow was competent. The deadline was absolute madness. We had a pretty good season too, so hopefully we can keep that up and have another good season here. Maybe get into the Cup picture. I'd like to be able to throw a game or two in so we can watch it in this series as well, just on the broadcast view, and take a watch as we play it. Yeah, ultimately this was a very good first episode. It took a lot longer than I thought. I definitely thought I was going to be able to do 2 seasons in one, but I'd be pushing 2.5 to 3 hours just on one video and then editing it. So we're going to limit it to 1. We'll be back very soon with the second season of 10. And yeah, we'll be back to crown a new Stanley Cup champion and a maybe a new champion. I shouldn't say a new Stanley Cup champion. Boston's still pretty good. Anyways, this has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one.